This is a video that I have been dreading having to make and procrastinating and putting it off because honestly it's just so hard to relive this stuff over and over again. But I know I need to make this video in order to move on with my life and move on with vlogging my life for you guys. So just bear with me as I try to get through this, and I will put some video clips up on the screen for you guys so you're not just staring at me crying the whole time. July 24th, 2023, my dad passed away. He had a number of things wrong with him, but ultimately it was heart failure that did him in. His heart just stopped. And I'll go into that in a minute, but if you remember at the end of my last dad update video, I told you my parents were planning on doing some traveling, and it was a pretty significant, important trip for my dad. But it was all depending on his health, because at the time he was admitted to the hospital for a gallstone, he was on antibiotics, he's got a broken arm, and we just weren't sure if he was going to be able to get out on time. And he had said he would have walked himself right out of there regardless. Like, he was not missing this trip. He was very determined. But luckily he was discharged from the hospital 2 days before we were set to leave. So the trip was a go. So it was my mom, my dad, myself, and Tony that went on this trip. And so he was discharged, and then the next day we spent the whole time packing up the car, making sure we had everything, his scooter, his wheelchair, his oxygen, like anything we could think of to make this trip a success for him. And then the next day in the morning, we packed up the car and we headed down to Boston to Logan Airport to catch a plane. What should have been a quick trip turned into 15 hours of traveling, which, as you can imagine, was a lot to put my dad through. We were all supposed to be on one flight, 4 hours direct, there, done, and that did not happen. That flight ended up getting canceled. We ended up getting split into two. Tony and my dad went on the first flight, and then 2 hours later, my mom and I got on a flight, and then we all met up in Baltimore for a layover, and then we had a 4-hour flight to our destination after that. And when one thing gets delayed, everything else after that gets pushed back as well. So the hotel reservation and the rental car, everything after that was such a struggle to get. And my dad did pretty well with the whole trip overall, but it was just up until the end when he was just completely exhausted. I mean, we all were, but I just felt so bad for him because I know it was so much to put him through. But he wanted to be there and he kept going. Eventually, after hours and hours of traveling and waiting and adjusting and rearranging and rebooking things and trying to figure things out, we finally got to the hotel early Friday morning, and we all just slept that entire day because we were just so wiped. So where did we go and why? Well, we flew to Denver, Colorado, and then we drove to Pueblo, Colorado, And we were out there for a family reunion on my dad's side. My grandpa is from the East Coast. He was born in Somerville, Mass. And he joined the Air Force, which eventually brought him out to Colorado, where he met Bessie Quintana. And they came back to the East Coast and got married. Then eventually went out to Albuquerque, New Mexico, where my dad was born. And they had 3 boys. But unfortunately, my dad's mother was killed when he was 5 years old. And so after that, my grandpa took his boys and came back to the East Coast. So we were going out there for a family reunion, and my dad was going to see family that he had not seen in over 40 years. So on Saturday, we drove to Colorado City, and the reunion was held at a campground, and we got to meet up with all his family from his mother's side. And the most important person that he was going there to see was his Aunt Rosie, which is his mother's sister. And she is the closest living relative that he has to his actual real mother. So she was like the only person that he wanted to go see. And somehow they kept it a surprise that my dad was coming. So when he did get there and see her, she was totally blown away that he was there. And everybody was taking pictures of him. And my dad was just so overwhelmed, and he just kept saying, like, I can't believe it. Like, he just kept looking like, I can't believe it. So we got to visit with so many people from that side of the family. I don't remember the number of cousins that were there, but it was in the hundreds. They had a cornhole tournament, and they had so much food, and they were doing karaoke and playing bingo, and it was just such an overwhelming gathering of family and love and just happiness. And it's so crazy to think that all these people could be connected by this one family line, and it was incredible. And I'm so grateful that I got to be a part of this and to learn about my dad's history and his life, and where he came from, and things that are important to him, and people that were important to him. And I'm so grateful that we got to make this trip happen for him. The day after the reunion, we did a little sightseeing around Pueblo, and we found my dad's grandfather's old house, and we went to the cemetery where his mother was buried, and we found her gravestone. We also found his Aunt Sarah's gravestone and her husband. We found his grandfather and grandmother. And then we found his uncle and his wife. And it's an interesting story because my grandpa married his wife, and my grandpa's brother married her sister. So it was 2 brothers marrying 2 sisters. So at the reunion, a lot of those cousins were double cousins because of how a brother and a brother married a sister and a sister. After we left the cemetery, we went to my dad's cousin Arthur's ranch to spend some more time just visiting with family and catching up and relaxing. And looking back on these clips as I'm editing this vlog, I can see how quickly my dad was fading. Like the way he looked on the first day of the trip versus the last day, I can see a huge difference.
Yeti. There's a movie called Harry and the Hendersons. That's the funniest movie ever. But give my love to everybody.
Hi, guys. Weren't you surprised to see him? Yes. That was a shocker. That was a shocker. You put one over me.
Oh, I was surprised I did.
I had to slap you for that.
Oh, that's okay. Both sides. Both sides.
I would have slapped you. Bye, guys.
Bye.
The next day, surprisingly, I did not record anything, which I'm still not really sure why I didn't. Monday the 24th was a normal day. I woke up, got dressed, and then went over to my dad's room to help get him up and cleaned up and ready for the day. And he had dialysis that morning. And he had slept good the night before, so he was in a good mood. He was like happy, ready to go. We take him to dialysis. He's in the waiting room chatting up everybody, telling him his whole life story, how he's from New Hampshire and his mother's from out here and this and that, and, you know, making people laugh and smile like he always does. And he kept saying to us, you know, while I'm here, you guys go relax, go do something fun, just hang out, whatever. And we thought for sure they would call us and say he needs to come home early, because the past few times he's been to dialysis, he wasn't feeling well and he'd been getting sent home early. So we thought for sure, you know, something was going to happen. But he stayed the whole 4 hours in dialysis, and the three of us went back to the hotel. And my mom loves jacuzzis, so we used the jacuzzi in the hotel and the pool, and we went swimming and just relaxed and took some naps and rested. And then when my dad was done with dialysis, I went and picked him up, and he was still in a pretty good mood. He was talking about how hungry he was. He was so excited he wanted to go get tacos for lunch, and drove back to the hotel with him, got him out of the car, sat him down in the wheelchair, and it was lights out. It was like literally like someone had switched off a light switch. So I know that everything that happened after that was kind of pointless and useless, because the outcome would have been the same no matter what. But as soon as he sat down in the wheelchair, his head went back and he was gone. We laid him down on the ground, did CPR, immediately called 911, did CPR until they came. The paramedics took over, and they managed to get his pulse back, but it was very, very faint. So they put him in the ambulance and drove him to the hospital, and we followed them. And then when they got to the hospital, we came into the waiting room, and then they took us into a quiet room. And the doctor came out and said that they had lost him again on the ride over, but they were working to get it back. And if we wanted to come back and see, we could. And I said I wanted to go see my dad. So we went back and we watched them. It was a whole team of people, like at least a dozen people, giving him CPR, like just working to try to get his heart started again, but it just wasn't happening. It wasn't happening. It wasn't gonna happen. And so then they just called it, and they said no more. They called it the time of death, and everybody left the room, and it was my mom and Tony and I in there. And we called my uncle to tell him that he was on his way. And I just stood there holding my dad's hand and hugging him, and I just kept kissing his face and smelling his hair, because I never wanted to like forget how he felt and smelled and how everything. And the chaplain came in and said some prayers with us. And we just spent like the next hour or so just saying our goodbyes to him, even though he was already gone, but I know he could hear us. And then I had to call my sisters back home and tell them that he was gone. And I called my oldest sister first, and she was pretty calm about it, but I could hear the quiver in her voice, but I know she was trying to hold it together because my niece was around her. And then I called my youngest sister. And I told her, and she just started screaming. And I'll never forget the sound of her screaming on the phone. And then my mom called my other third sister and told her as well. So during that time, people were coming in and out and coming to see him and say goodbye and stuff. And I just didn't want to leave him. It was so hard leaving the hospital without him. Even though it somehow felt like all the other times that we had left him at the hospital and we're coming to visit you tomorrow, Dad. We'll see you tomorrow. Like, but this time we weren't coming back to see him. So we all went back to the hotel that night, and then the next day we had to go to the funeral home in Pueblo, where they were starting to do the preparations on him. And he had to be embalmed first in order to be flown home to New Hampshire. And we had to figure out the flights for that and start making arrangements. And then the hotel was nice enough to give us a free night stay because obviously we had missed our flights that day. So we had to rearrange the flights and everything else. And then we ended up leaving back to New Hampshire the next day. It took some time to get him home. It took about a week. And then it was about a week after that until we could have the wake and the funeral. So Tuesday, August 8th, we had the wake and everything was beautiful. His casket was beautiful. And I had said before, like, I'm not going to look at him. It's been 2 weeks. No way he's going to look good. I don't want to see him like that. But when I got there, I did look at him and he did look good. And like, I couldn't take my eyes off him. And everything was beautiful. His casket was beautiful. The flowers. A lot of people had made collages of pictures for him and scrapbooks, and everyone was so supportive and helping us get through this time. The next day, Wednesday, August 9th, was the funeral, and I didn't vlog the ceremony because it was just a lot to take in, but it was live broadcasted over Zoom to our relatives on the West Coast so they could watch. And my aunt got up and read a really nice eulogy for him, and it played some really nice songs, and the priest said some really great words, and I think the whole thing was just really a beautiful send-off for him, and I think he would have been really happy with what we did for him.
On behalf of the President of the United States, the United States Air Force, and your grateful nation, please accept this flag as a symbol of our appreciation for your loved ones' honorable service.
He'd be proud of you. So am I.
It's just been really hard knowing that he's not here anymore. And I'm trying to find comfort knowing that he's at peace now and he's with his family and he's not in pain anymore, because he went through so much health-wise in the past 3 years, and it's really not fair. You know, I think about him every single day, and I cry every single day. And they say it gets better and easier with time, but I don't think it's gonna, not for a very long time. You gotta go to the funeral and all that, and then you gotta take care of their home and take care of their expenses, and then you still get mail coming with their name on it, and then you get the month anniversary, and then all the firsts of all the holidays, the first without him, and then his birthday, and then it'll be the 1 year anniversary, and it's like, it's gonna take a long time. And I mean, I hope that I'm always reminded of him, because I don't ever want to forget him, and I hope that I always feel like he's around me, because I do, like, it still doesn't seem real yet, like, even though I was there, and I saw it, everything I did, it still doesn't feel real, and in a way that's good, because I hope I never feel like a loss. I always feel like I hope to see him, you know, walking in the door, turn the corner, pulling up, or, you know, something. And someone at the funeral said to me, like, don't think about the hole that they left behind. Think about, it's such a big hole because they had such a huge presence in your life. Like, that's how big and important and amazing they were. Like, think of the hole that they filled. Don't think about the hole that they left behind. And I'm trying my best every single day, but it's just really hard, and every single day I just wish he was here, and I wish I could talk to him. And it's gonna be a while. But thank you guys for continuing to watch my videos, and, you know, still keep coming to check on me, even though it's been like so long without an upload. And I know it blows me away that you guys just still stick around, and I truly appreciate you guys. I end every video and I say thank you for watching, and I love you, and I truly mean it. Like, you guys mean so much to me, and I can't thank you enough. So Thank you for watching. I love you. I'll see you in the next video.